So how's everybody doing? Back off of a fresh break? Did you get enough to eat? Yeah? Everybody getting droopy-eyed now? Hey, James? James?
Yeah.
Did we get the intravenous coffee lines pumped in from the lobby there?
Yeah, we totally did.
All right.
They should be awake.
Okay, so you guys are good to go. All right, so as you saw, I've been Director of Business Services at OSU Federal for several years now. My background is in commercial lending, 10 years of that, 15 years in the financial services industry. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about changing lending practices over the last few years, some regulatory changes, and then we'll focus on what lenders are looking for today in property investment lending. Dry subject, I know, so I'll try to keep you captivated as possible. So just a brief history on what we just came through as a cycle. And Bill did a great job this morning talking about some of the property values and what we've come through and where we're headed. I vividly remember back in 2006, up at an executive banking school up in Washington, we had this enigmatic instructor from the South. His name was John. And he taught on portfolio risk management, which is a huge thing in commercial lending, right? So it's not all about the individual loan. It's about what's your portfolio look like. So we roll up to John's class, and we can't help but notice this stuffed animal frog that he's got sitting on the back shelf. And he knows that we're looking at it. So finally, somebody has the guts to go, "What's with the frog?" He goes, oh, that's my friend Buddy the frog. He was from Atlanta. He said, he's been a friend of mine for years, but I'm getting concerned about Buddy because, see, he's sitting over here in this pot of water, and we keep turning up that heat on him, and it's starting to get warm. And we're all scratching our head. What he was talking about was leverage. This was right before the bubble, right at the peak of property prices. So he got his point across in that way, talked about leverage in the industry as financial institutions, leverage on your personal balance sheet. Property prices were here. We were lending right there with it as an industry. A lot of the larger institutions lent 100% loan to cost. So we went back up the next year, 2007. This was August of 2007. I was literally right on campus at the University of Washington during the week that Countrywide was failing. And there was old John, and he had a different frog. It was a much bigger frog sitting back there. And he said, "Oh, you notice that I got a different Buddy now. That's not Buddy. It's his brother." He said, "Buddy died. We killed him." And it happened because the bubble broke. So we had record leverage in the industry, like I said, personal balance sheets, and then it all came crashing down. Part of that was loan to value versus loan to cost. I think. So as you built a property or bought something, if the value that was appraised was up here, traditional lending says you should lend about that much. Well, for a while there, people were lending exactly as much as you were you were getting it for. So what's that mean? No skin in the game. And that's a cardinal rule of lending. The borrower must have some skin in the game. So that's come full circle now. There's been a lot of regulation changes, primarily Dodd-Frank and the creation of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Let's see. Oh, there we go. So, Dodd-Frank, everybody heard of that? Yeah. CFPB, have you heard of that? I was just talking to Greg Jackson out in the lobby, and we were talking about how the CFPB is impacting even the title companies. And so there's a lot of new policies and procedures that are being put in place by lending institutions and everybody involved in the real estate industry. So what I'm seeing, too, is a little bit of a push to consumerize business credit or business lending. So basically, some of the disclosure rules and some of the things that are really pushed on the consumer side that the business lending side didn't really historically have to deal with, some of that is being pushed over. So we have to jump through additional hoops just to lend. Well, what's that mean for you as a borrower or a consumer? If there's more red tape, a lot of times it takes longer to get the loan processed. It could be more expensive at the end of it. So those are some of the things as an industry that we're having to deal with the new regulation. And unfortunately, a lot of the larger institutions were a lot of the ones that caused a lot of the problems. The little institutions like Citizens Bank and OSU Federal, we really didn't get involved in a lot of the practices that were going on leading up to the real estate bubble. So we're going to talk a little bit about the 5 C's of credit. So what do lenders look for when we're going to make a loan on your investment property? You want to buy an apartment complex, a rental home, commercial property. What do we look for? Well, there is capital, capacity. How many of you think Elvis is the king? Yeah, see? Now in music circles, it's true. Elvis is the king. But when you get into lending, cash is the king, okay? So you have cash equity to make that initial injection into your investment. And then you have cash flow to make the repayment on that debt, month in, month out. So cash, from a lending perspective, is king in the form of capital and cash flow. Collateral. Well, if you're going to buy an investment property, what's it worth? What's the property type? We analyze those things to death as lenders and make sound decisions and hopefully get you into your investment property that you're looking to buy. Character. Well, I know a lot of people, but in a town of 50,000+ and a market much bigger than that, I don't know everybody. So what's the quickest tool? What's the quickest way that I can use to judge your financial character? Credit report. So we're going to check deeply into your credit. It's not all about the number. A lot of it has to do with the FICO score, I know. But we're going to look at all the things that sum it up. So if you have a couple of hiccups, we want to know about it. We'll ask you about it. And there's usually ways to work around things, as long as you've done everything on your end necessary to make it as clean as possible. And conditions. Well, what are the conditions? The economy. What did Bill Clinton say? It's the economy, stupid. And not just macro, micro. So you look at Corvallis. We heard from some great speakers this morning talking about the climate here in Corvallis. It's a little different than some of our surrounding communities, right? So that plays a role in the conditions. And if we're going to lend on investment property, we factor that in any town. Talked a little bit about this already. But debt service coverage ratio. When you buy a property, you have your gross income off your rents coming in. Okay, you got your apartment complex, whatever type of property, commercial. You have all your operating expenses. What's left? Net operating income. That is what has to cover the debt payments on that loan, plus a cushion. And so, why do we want a cushion? Well, for the unforeseen. If vacancy spikes, we're going to factor in some kind of vacancy into that property. But if you have a spike in vacancy for some reason, we want there to be a cushion there. A common one that's thrown around the industry, 1.25, 1.35, you'll see that your net operating income has to be higher than what your debt payments are. Another thing we look at, too far. Another thing we look at is our balance sheet. So as a lender, it's all about that portfolio management. So we're going to have X amount of loans in commercial property, might have some hotels, you might have some apartment complexes, and you might have some 1 to 4 family. Lindora, Taylor, how many loans can you have in the secondary market to get financed? Yeah, 10. So if you are turning into a larger investment property owner and you have 10 properties already out in the secondary market, someone's going to have to put that loan on their books. And so we look at things in a global perspective on our portfolio. So if you come to a lender and you have a hotel property and we book that, and then 2 years later, you come back and you have 2 more hotels that you want to do, that lender may say, hey, you know what? Since you came to us last time, we booked a couple others and we're all full right now of that particular property type. Could be the same with 1 to 4 family. Could be the same with any property type. So we have to really manage that portfolio. History. Can you effectively manage the endeavor that you want to enter into? So if you're going to buy an investment property or you want to build an investment property portfolio, do you have a history or a track record of managing that property? If not, are you going to farm it out to a firm that's going to do it for you, property management company? We're going to look at all of those things. Okay. Expect the personal guarantee. Does everybody know what I'm talking about when I say that? Have you heard on the radio I think it's like incorporate in Nevada and immediately get qualified for credit for your business without signing on personally? Well, unless you're a publicly traded company or have a very long relationship with your lender in a special circumstance, always expect to sign a personal guarantee. Why is that? Well, if you're buying an investment property, let's say the LTV, loan to value, is even 70%, meaning you come in with 30, the lender comes in with 70. The lender has more skin in the game. So we've got more of our capital into that investment than you do. So if something goes haywire, we want that personal guarantee to be there, you having your name on the line to back that up. That's the reason for that. So same thing with companies. A lot of them have debt to tangible net worth ratios greater than 1 to 1. Same exact concept, meaning that the lender sometimes has more equity in their company than they themselves do. That's the reason for personal guarantees. Now, lastly, I want to talk about building a relationship with your lender. In a professional way. Not that I want you to become professional borrowers, like borrowing all the time. Yeah, maybe you do. But there's a few things. Provide the information that we're looking for. I know it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of paper to gather up, to give to us, but you have to do it. We're a heavily regulated industry, and there's best practices that come along with it. And so when we ask you for the 3 years of tax returns and the financial statement and all the accompanying schedules, you just got to bear with us. Be accessible to your lender. We want to know how you're doing. We'd like you to check in with us every so often. You don't have to call us every day, but we like to know how you're doing. It's part of that portfolio management piece. We check in with our borrowers to see how things are going in general. Expect to keep financial information flowing to your lender or lenders. Depending on the particular lender's portfolio, the size of your loan, the type of loan, or how many other loans you might also have with that lender, we're going to perform an annual review on your loan, meaning we're going to underwrite it again every year until it either reduces past a threshold or it rolls off the books, i.e. you pay it off. So we're going to ask for your financials again annually, get that information in, analyze it, because we have to monitor the risk migration through our portfolio. So when we book the loan, it might have had this much shiny gold on it. Next year, it could be platinum. But then the following year, it might have dipped all the way down to silver. So I say that in layman's terms because that's really how we look at our portfolio, and we have to manage it so we can identify any issues. Yeah, so that thing that I talked about, the portfolio management. As you increase the size of your portfolio as a property investor, I would encourage you to have good friendships, good relationships with a couple of lenders, because if you get heavily into one area of property, the lender that's your go-to lender may say, hey, you know what, we're going to pass this time, or most lenders have an in-house limit. I work for a federally chartered credit union. We have a statutory limit to debt out to any one borrower for a business purpose. And if you're with a financial institution that doesn't have a statutory limit, believe me, they have an in-house limit that they don't want any more exposure than that limit with one borrower or group of borrowers. So be prepared. Talk to your lenders. Well, I hope I've captivated you long enough with the dry topic of lending. We talked a little bit about the history, just kind of an overview of what happened with the bubble, what lenders look for, what we particularly look for today. It hasn't changed. You know, it's just kind of tightened up a little bit for a while, but capital is starting to shake loose. Bill talked about that this morning a little bit. We've got plenty to lend, and we're looking forward to it. You got to build that relationship with your lenders. Stay in touch, communicate, keep that financial information flowing. Thank you for your time today. Appreciate it.